On today's show, the LA Clippers have traded fan favorite Terance Mann, and in comes Bogdan Bogdanovic, also known as Bogie. What do we make of this move, Clipper Nation? Gonna be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 20th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DimeDropperPod, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, that I've been doing for 5 years, covering the Clippers and NBA and LA sports. And of course, this channel, Locked On Clippers, free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think of the Terance Mann trade in the comments. And Locked On Clippers has a newsletter written by yours truly. Just got to go to lockedondaily.com to sign up for it. That's lockedondaily.com. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Terance Mann trade, the addition of Bogdan Bogdanovic, and I'm going to be ending with the additions of Patty Mills, Drew Eubanks, and the losses of Mo Bamba. And I guess Kevin Porter Jr., even though I touched on that in my last episode, which was the first episode back since my hiatus after the loss of my house. I appreciate the comments. I will be responding to them in due time. I haven't responded to comments on my videos in a long time, so I will be doing that. I appreciate all the well wishes, and it really feels incredible to be supported like this. I could not thank you enough, Clipper Nation. But let's talk about the newest Clipper, Bogdan Bogdanovic, aka Bogie, the Serbian combo guard that can light it up from distance. He's been in the NBA. This is his 8th season in the NBA. He's played for the Sacramento Kings and the Atlanta Hawks, 3 full seasons with the Sacramento Kings, and now 4.5 seasons with the Atlanta Hawks. In his first season with the Hawks, he helped them get to the conference finals, and he was a big part of that in the playoffs. And then the last couple of seasons has had some really solid seasons, including a career high in points last season, playing 79 games for the Hawks, averaging 17 points a game to go along with 3 rebounds and 3 assists on 43, 37, 92 splits. So Bogie, I mean, in my opinion, he's a guy that is more talented, maybe not even more talented, but just a better basketball player than both Terance Mann and Kevin Porter Jr. This is a guy that can light it up from deep, can put the ball on the floor, can get his own shot one-on-one, not at a super high level, but he's another guy that can kind of get his own shot, that can create shots and pick and roll. I think he's a better passer than Kevin Porter Jr., and he has the ability to make some tough shots in the lane. Now, the thing about Bogie that's a little concerning is out of nowhere, after last season having a career year scoring the basketball, he is averaging 25 minutes a game, which is 5 less minutes than last year, and he's shooting 37% from the field and 30 from 3. 37% from the field and 30 from 3 is a little concerning. He's played 24 games, so he's missed a decent chunk. That's basically half the season. And he has been injured in his time with the Hawks. He has. He missed 19 games in 2022. He missed 28 games in 2023. In 2021, he missed 28 games as well. So he's had his fair share of injury issues, which, as a Clipper fan, bringing in Ben Simmons, bringing in Bogdanovic, 2 guys that have injury history, that does concern me a bit. But what I will say is this. The Clippers have found a way to get the most out of guys when they feel like they're at their end or they're on the decline. I don't necessarily know if Bogey's on the decline. I think if I'm the Atlanta Hawks and you're trading Bogie, who's had these injury problems and is having a bad year, for a Terance Mann, a young athletic player, when you have a team of athletic guys like Jalen Johnson, and they don't have DeAndre Hunter anymore, but Zachary Reese-Shea and those kind of players that you want to put around Trae Young, I think Terance Mann fits the bill pretty nicely. for us to replace Kevin Porter Jr., we already have a lot of what Terance Mann does, and I'll talk about that in the second segment, but we need somebody that can kind of lead that offensive unit off the bench. It can't just be Chris Dunn, because assuming our starting lineup is Harden, Kawhi, Norm, Derek, and Zoo, that would leave Nico, Amir, and Chris Dunn as those guaranteed bench players. Now you have Ben Simmons in there, but he's not going to really look at the basket like that, right? He's going to push the pace. He's only going to attack when he's got a lane or in transition. In the half court, you're going to need somebody to, create shots and pick and roll, generate those shots with their scoring ability. And Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be brought in to be that guy. So my take is this: if he can be the guy that he was last year, we're making a great trade here. We're getting an upgrade here with Bogie, right? And not only that, in the Bogie trade, we also got a couple of second round picks. This wasn't, you know, just Bogie for Terance Mann. It's Bogie and the 2025, 2026, 2027 second round picks from the Hawks in exchange for T-Man and Bones Highland. So I'll talk about Bones Highland as well in the next segment. But yeah, this is the third stop for Bogie. I'm excited for him. I mean, this is a guy who has international playing experience as well, having played with the Serbian national team. And he is a solid player in this league, a guy who's averaged double-figure points every season of his career, including this one. So he's a more reliable scorer than Terance Mann, and no doubt about that. He was 5th in Sixth Man of the Year voting last year and 6th in Sixth Man of the Year voting in 2022. So he had a really solid tenure with the Hawks. He really did. And I'm excited to have him with the Clippers. I really am. I think if we can get the Bogie that I mentioned earlier, I don't know what's happening this year. If we're getting that, then it's a bad trade. Straight up, it's a bad trade if that's the Bogdanovic that we're getting. But if we are getting the Bogdan Bogdanovic, not to be confused with the Bojan Bogdanovic that we played against the Utah Jazz in the playoffs, that is a small forward who is kind of a wing. This is a guard. I think this one is better, though. He's younger. He's quicker. He can pass the ball better. I like this one better. The other one just has more size, and he has played a bigger role on good teams, I will say, but he's also older. He's also from Croatia. This guy's from Serbia. But looking at his contract right now, he's getting paid $17 million a year, which honestly, I think if Bogey's playing like he did last season is a little bit of an underpay. I'd say he should be around $20 million a year. But next year, he's guaranteed $16 million. And then the next year is a team option, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I don't think it's a bad contract. It's totally fine. $17 million. He could be great for us. He could be great. We'll just have to wait and see. I think overall, though, if it does work out well, it's going to be an upgrade over Terance. But how did it all turn for Terance, one of the most beloved figures in Clipper history? I'm going to be talking about why he was traded, how I feel about the trade, and a little bit of Bones Highland included there as well, coming up. I got to tell you a little something about OpenPhone. Here's the thing about OpenPhone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone. And before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where OpenPhone comes in. It's the number one business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba for 20% off 6 months. openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. All right. Oh, man. It's time to talk about it. Terance Mann got traded. My favorite Clipper. One of my favorite players to ever don the uniform. You could feel it coming the last couple of weeks before it happened. He had kind of fallen out of the rotation. I feel like the momentum against Terance kind of turned last year when he finally got the starting role that fans have been begging for. He didn't really take it and run with it. He had a huge shooting slump, ended up shooting better in the second half of the season, and then played well in the playoffs defending Luka Doncic, and then had a chance to build off of it this year. But the thing is, we got other defensive players that were better defenders than him. And I always said about Terance, he does a little bit of everything. But he's kind of one of those jack of all trades, but master of none kind of deal. The haters will say he's not good at anything, which I disagree with. I think he's got a high basketball IQ. He had historically shot pretty well from three, even though I don't think he's a very good shooter. But he can get downhill, attacking closeouts. The thing is, when he's not shooting well, people are not going to close out very hard. He was fantastic in transition, solid defender, energy guy that goes out and makes the little plays, try to help you win, like diving on the floor for a loose ball, going for an offensive rebound that ends up deflecting off the other team and staying with your team. That kind of stuff, those little things, cutting spontaneously, being able to finish in transition, good in the short roll, those kind of little things, connective things. And he doesn't do too much. He stays in his lane, and that makes him really good to play alongside stars. But it started kind of turning last year when he was having that slump from three. And then this season, as I said, we got guys that could defend better than him, Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. in particular. And then Amir Coffey's been shooting the ball really, really well. And I've always felt like Amir Coffey's the better shooter than Terance. And so it kind of became, we thought it would be maybe Kevin Porter Jr. that was taken out of the rotation. But Kevin Porter Jr. fulfilled the need of scorer off the bench. Terance Mann is not that. And some people thought he was going to be able to take a scoring leap, be a creator. The thing is, when teams are going to go under the screen on you and you don't have confidence in your jump shot and you don't have a very good left hand, you're not going to be a playmaker and pick and roll in the NBA. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. And so with Terance, he fell out of favor with the rotation. You know what I mean? And I thought maybe we could make a consolidation trade to give him more minutes, but I think the organization realized that when we paid him this past summer, and I said, it was a good deal, he didn't really live up to it. He let me down in a way. He didn't make me look good, and I was wrong on it. I was definitely wrong. It wasn't a good deal, but what was good was that it was easily tradable. And the thing about T, ultimately, besides these specifics, he lost confidence in his jump shot, and his confidence as an NBA player was very wavering. Too wavering to be a solidified piece of a championship contending team or a team that has championship aspirations. That's why, he did end up getting traded to a team that doesn't have as big of goals in the right now. You know what I mean? At the Atlanta Hawks. And I think it's going to be a great fit for him. And I think he's going to really, find a refound sense of confidence there. He just had his second game as a Hawk, where he was 3 for 3 from deep, 12 points. So happy for him, and I think he's going to be great there. But I don't know. It just felt like he had really lost his confidence with us. And confidence is everything in the game of basketball and in sports in general. If you lose that, you don't really know who you are as a player anymore. It became to the point where Terance was just kind of out there, and he wasn't affecting the game the way he used to. And that's the thing is, you draft a player, you think he can get better every year, and Terance was getting better every year until he wasn't. And I would say the year that he started regressing was really last year. Because if we remember and we really are accurate about Terance's time with the Clippers, it goes much further than Oh, he never played well after that game 6 against the Jazz. That's not the case. In 2022, he had his best season as a Clipper. He played 81 games. We didn't have Paul George for 51 of them. We didn't have Kawhi for all of them. And Terance and Amir had his breakout season. And Reggie and Senior and Nico, these guys, Hartenstein, Zoo, they collectively led us to that 8th seed. We obviously ended up losing those 2 play-in games, but Terance averaged a career high 11 points, a career high 5 rebounds, and a career high 3 assists. To this day, that's his best season, is the first full season after the curse breaker game that he had. And he actually shot only just 48% from the field compared to his following 2 seasons where he would average 50% or higher from the field. And he shot 36.5% from 3, which again, you'll take those shooting splits. I think that was his best year as a Clipper. And then the following year was the one where he came off the bench a ton of the season. We were begging for him to play more. Ty had that fetish with Reggie and Senior. Eventually, Terance Mann gets put in the starting lineup after we get rid of Reggie, and then we get Westbrook. But that season, it looked like Terance was progressing as well. He was averaging 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists in basically 6 less minutes of play, and shooting 52% from the field and 39% from 3, and only missed 1 game. So I thought even in that season, you could see signs of growth. And then when we got James Harden starting in that season last year, it felt like he had regressed. Now, I took a look at some of Terance's stats, and I have some interesting ones to tell you. So the number of dunks per game each season with Terance had gone down. 56 in 2022, 47 in 2023, and 45 last season. Also, in 2023, 33% of his shots came within the basket and 3 feet. The following season, which is last season, 29%, and then this season, 27%. So the number of dunks and the number of shots around the basket have decreased, which is interesting given that he's had more help. Well, not this season, but last season he had the most star power around him and was getting more minutes. I put that down to less transition opportunities. We inherently got slower when we got James Harden. I've noticed less cutting from him, and he's been real hesitant around the basket. I don't know if that's because of that ankle injury he sustained last year, but he's not exploding the same way he once did. So a mixture of slow pace, and I think that ankle injury as well, and confidence. The mixture of those 3 have, I think, prevented him from getting the same amount of shots around the basket. And when you look at his 3-point attempt percentage throughout the seasons, it also tells a little bit of a story. In 2022, he shot 30%. 30% of his shots were threes. In 2023, 38% of his shots were threes. Now, mind you, he was shooting 39% from 3 in 2023. So he was actually shooting very well from 3. But then last season, he shot 41% of his shots from 3. So we're talking about 4 out of 10, essentially. We're getting close to half. And he's not a great 3-point shooter. Even if his percentage is great, teams do not guard Terance Mann like he's a good 3-point shooter. And then this season, 38% of his shots were threes. So for me, it felt like when we got more stars, when we got mainly Harden, Terance is more of a sit in the corner guy. And I don't know if that's his game. I think he needed a little bit of a different diet of shots and, more transition opportunities. I think the slower pace didn't fit him very well. And then defensively, I said before the season, maybe more defenders will create more turnovers, lead to more transition, but it felt like a lot of that was in the starting lineup with Chris Dunn, with Derek Jones. And I think Terance Mann's defense not being as good as maybe those seasons as well by a little bit also hurt the lack of offensive opportunities. I think it's all correlated. Like his performance, it gets in his head how he's doing. So just standing in the corner, and it's also a different kind of shot. When you're standing in the corner and you're not touching the ball as much, that shot feels so much bigger. And to a guy with wavering confidence, I think that can be a tough role to play. So if you're wondering, am I saying that James Harden hurt Terance? I think a little bit. I don't know if their styles were very compatible. Despite the fact that he got him a lot of good shots, I don't know if, because that's when I got to be honest with you. And I know that James Harden stands not going to like it. And by the way, I'm not blaming James more than I'm blaming Terance. I think as an NBA player, you got to be able to produce, you know what I mean, in different situations. But I think it was a harder adjustment for him than people are talking about. You can get open shots, but it feels different. And here are my stats to back it up a little bit. Touches per game. This is the amount of time somebody touches the ball. In 2022, Terance averaged 40, and this is also on the Clippers coaching staff. Listen to this. Touches per game in 2022, 43. The following season, 37. Last season when we got Westbrook and first season with Harden and Westbrook, 29. This season, 27. Every single season, he's touched the ball less. Is that great for a developing player? Because his best results came with more touches, as we're seeing, right? Then we get the time of possession. This is the literal time that the ball is in your hands. James Harden ranks 6th in the league in this category, behind Jalen Brunson, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, Cade Cunningham, and Tyrese Maxey. And then it's James Harden, which checks out, obviously, if you watch the games. Although I have not watched too much of the Bucks this season, I can't lie. But in 2022, Terance had the ball for 2.5 minutes per game. 2023, 2.1. 2024, 1.3. And then this season, 1.4. So significant decrease when we got Harden, but each season lower and lower until really this season. So that's not great for development. And then the average seconds per touch before this season, and this season he's getting less minutes, but entirely. But average seconds per touch in 2022, 3.44, 2023, 3.38, significant decrease in 2024 with 2.60. So in my opinion, it's just hard because we ended up getting more guys to take the ball out of his hands, and we were starting to develop him as the ball with the ball in his hands a little bit. I don't know. At the end of the day, Terance didn't improve enough with his jump shot, and I think that seeped in everything else. But I think there were some other factors. Now, here's the thing: if he stinks it up in in Atlanta, then he just wasn't a very good NBA player, and he had a couple of good years, and that was it. But if he ends up reviving his career and playing great basketball over there, and you wonder what went wrong, well, I just laid out a lot of things. As far as Bones Highland, I feel really bad for him because we never really seemed to give him a proper opportunity. You know, he came here. We thought maybe he's the backup point guard here because in Denver he couldn't get that chance. And then we did give him a chance at the second half of that 2023 season. Then we bring in James Harden, so now he's the third string, waits patiently, and then we bring in Kevin Porter. So I just thought that was messed up. And the fact that the Hawks waived him, now he's not on a team. So it's what I feared for Bones, that he'd be out of the league. And part of, I think, what's hurt Bones is that his reaction to his roles haven't been well received. So I hope Bones ends up on a team, but we knew the writing was on the wall for him when we got Kevin Porter. So excited about Bogie. Terance, I want to say this too, though. I'm going to miss Terance so much. He meant so much to Clipper fans. I'll never forget that night as long as I live. And it's not just that night. There was game 5 against Utah. There was game 7 against Dallas. He was a Clipper in every sense. He bled red, white, and blue. He worked so hard for us. He did community outreach. He was a spokesperson for the franchise. He did great with fans. I mean, I'm going to miss him. I was really hoping he'd be a Clipper forever, but it's a business, and I don't think Terance, we put a lot of faith in him as an organization, but, you know, he didn't improve to the rate that we expected, and, you know, the combination of players that we got, I guess, just didn't work well with him, but I'm always going to root for him. I'm always going to wish him the best and his family the best, and Coach LaForce, you know, just great family all around, and you'll always be a Clipper legend, Terance. I said it. Let's start a GoFundMe to build that statue after Game 6. And, man, what an ovation he's going to receive next year at the Intuit Dome. I can't wait to be there. We love you, Terance. You are the man. Coming up, going to be talking about the Patty Mills and Drew Eubanks trade and what that could mean for the Clips. All right, back here to talk about the trade that was made actually before the trade deadline, and here it is. We have traded PJ Tucker and Mo Bamba and a future second-round pick and cash considerations, maybe one of those second-round picks. Actually, no, it's 2030. It's a 2030 second-round pick, and we get Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills. Well, it's finally nice to get PJ Tucker's contract off the books. We've been talking about that for a while. And the thing about PJ Tucker is, we thought maybe he could add some toughness to this team. It was the bad add-on to the James Harden trade. But what I didn't like was that PJ Tucker just wasn't really professional with the Clippers. He didn't like his role. He whined his way into an elimination game of the playoffs and just didn't have much left in the tank. He couldn't get off the ground, which hurt him defensively. He had no elevation on his jump shot. He declined defensively. He was just not good and couldn't accept that he wasn't good anymore and was a problem. Had to take time away from the team. Like, it was just, you know, I have respect for PJ Tucker because when I met him as a kid, he was really kind to my family and I when he was a member of the Phoenix Suns. But as a Clipper, he was just whack. And then we talk about Mo Bamba. I took my shots at Mo Bamba, and it was never personal with him. I just felt as though he wasn't particularly good at anything at the NBA level, and he's a complete bust. I'm telling you that Sheck West gave him more years in the league than, than if it weren't for that song, I don't think Mo Bamba would still be in the league. There are people that know him, they didn't even know he's a real person because of that song. So with Mo, I thought he was a fake pick and pop big. I said it from day one. I think Eubanks is better than him, but Eubanks isn't the answer. I think he's played pretty well in these first two games. He plays with heart. He plays with energy. He just reminds me of Mason Plumlee. Like, to me, they're in the same exact boat. There's a reason why the Phoenix Suns got rid of him and replaced him with Mason Plumlee. There's a reason why Drew Eubanks has never played for an actual team with aspirations to do anything. And that's just the unfortunate truth. That's the unfortunate truth. We also got MarJon Beauchamp for KPJ. MarJon Beauchamp is a young player, picked 24th in the 2022 draft, 6'7", good size. He's played on a win now team, so he hasn't really gotten much of an opportunity. And his shooting splits last year in just 26 games were 38% from the field and 33 from three and 75 from the line. So he hasn't really shown anything. I don't know if this team is the one right now that he's going to be able to show anything because we actually have vets that want to win now. But it's nice to get a young player, I guess, another prospect, so to speak. But Drew Eubanks, he's averaging 3 points and 3 rebounds in his first 2 games as a Clipper, or first 3 games. But one of them was in garbage time against the Lakers. If you look at the teams he's been on, he was a bench warmer on the 2019 Spurs that made it to the playoffs and lost the Denver Nuggets in 7 games. He played on the Spurs for 4 seasons, or 3.5 seasons. And those Spurs teams weren't very good. They were like playing teams. And then he played on the Blazers that were horrific for 2 years with Damian Lillard. He did average 14.5 points a game for the 2022 Blazers. That was the year that CJ McCollum was traded and Damian Lillard was out basically the entire season. And then last season with the Suns, and then this season with the Jazz. And he was averaging 6 points and 4.5 rebounds this season with the Jazz in 15 minutes off the bench on 61% shooting. Yeah, I don't think Drew Eubanks is the answer to anything. I'm not satisfied with him as a replacement as a backup big. I think he'll be a little better than Mo Bamba, but he's just a little undersized. He's 6'10", doesn't protect the rim. I think he can move his feet decently, but there's a reason why he's been moved off of several times. He's got a little bit of bounce. He's got some heart. But if we're talking about winning series, and I mean series plural, I don't think so. And I think he's just what Ty is going to do is lean into this small ball with Ben Simmons at the 5 and then have Drew Eubanks in case of emergencies, which I wish we had a little bit more of a reliable backup in case of emergencies, but that's just what it's come down to. As far as Patty Mills, like 5 years too late, in my opinion. Patty Mills was a Clipper killer. He was just an absolute splasher from 3. And now he's just good for veteran leadership. So having him and Ben Simmons, the 2 Aussies, that'll be nice. By the way, hearing Ben Simmons speak on Tuesday was interesting. He seems like he's in positive spirits. He's happy to be here and feels wanted. I think it's just crazy seeing Ben Simmons in a Clipper jersey. It's insane. And by the way, I love just seeing the Clipper jersey. And if you're watching this video, I'm rocking that Clipper cursive. Shout out to Rui, got me this hoodie. It was very nice of her. I had I lost my 2022, like that beige Clipper cursive hoodie that we got that season. I loved, but the fact that I got this one, this blue and red, I just love me some Clipper cursive. You know what I mean? So it's been weird, building back my collection and building a new Clipper collection. It's gonna take a while, obviously, to get anything close to what it was, but we'll build it back naturally. But yeah, so how do I feel about the roster? I mean, is it a championship roster? Not in my opinion. I think the Ben Simmons question mark is something, but he could be great. I think the backup big is really the only thing, and then maybe a lack of another big forward, quite frankly, from being a championship team. But the main thing is Kawhi. When is he going to show up to the party? I'm going to talk about the Clippers' form over the last 16 games that I haven't been able to be here for on the next episode of Locked On Clippers on Wednesday morning before the Grizzlies game. I'll also be maybe talking about Ben Simmons in those small ball lineups, but not sure if I'll be able to fit all that into tomorrow's episode because, yeah, 16 games I haven't talked about. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Hit me with a tweet. Let me know what you think of the pod being back. I'm always taking suggestions, always wanting to get better. It's great to be back, as I said. If you haven't checked out my first episode back yesterday, do go ahead and check that out. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Let's get up to 7,000 subscribers. Hit the notification bell so you know every single time I post a video. And of course, for more NBA content and more LA sports content, go to Dime Dropper. There's been a huge trade in this city, and I haven't talked about it on this show yet, but it affects us, our old nemesis, going to our team nemesis. It's just, oh my God, it's terrible. But we'll talk about that at some point later in the week. It's just, there's so much to talk about, and it's so good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. So please subscribe to Dime Dropper. Please subscribe to Locked On Clippers. You can listen to both wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, the Locked On Clippers newsletter that I write daily. It really helps if you subscribe or if you signed up. LockedOnDaily.com is where to go. Bogie, welcome to LA. Ben Simmons, welcome to LA. Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, since I did not do an episode, welcome to LA. Terance Mann, I love you, man. I wish you the best, and I'm wishing for a great rest of your career. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.